New York is ordered to pay the NRA's legal bills. Democrats' attempts to once again conjure pandemic fears is failing miserably, and we analyze the genius of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Yes, you heard me say that. Hello, I'm Mike Huckabee with your October 3rd edition of The Breakdown. If you get to the end of the video and find it informative, please consider subscribing to the channel with the subscribe button below and clicking the notification bell. We're edging ever so close to 1 million subscribers on the channel. And with about 70% of you who are watching, not even subscribed yet, we could be there very quickly with your help. A couple of news updates before we get to our main story today. First, while New York is struggling financially due to taxpayers fleeing and illegal immigrants led in by Joe Biden bankrupting their social programs, they now have a new bill to worry about. And this one, it's going to hurt. A New York judge ordered the state to pay $447,000 in legal fees to the National Rifle Association. This came after the Supreme Court struck down as unconstitutional a New York law that required citizens to show proper cause for seeking a gun carry license, with the state deciding subjectively whether they'd shown a good enough reason to be allowed to exercise their Second Amendment rights. They should have realized that was unconstitutional before passing it. But it took the NRA challenging it to get it thrown out, and now the state of New York gets to pay their legal bills. According to the NRA, this is only about a third of what it costs to litigate the issue because New York refuses to fully compensate. But at least they can take solace in knowing that writing a $447,000 check to the NRA may be the most painful duty that Governor Hochul faces all week. In other news, you might have seen some of the mini commercial recently pushing the latest COVID vaccines, but it appears they aren't very effective. The commercials, I mean. A Kaiser Family Foundation poll found that only 23% of U.S. adults say they will definitely get the new jab, another 25% saying they'll probably get it. 52% will probably or definitely not get it. The majority of those who want the jab are Democrats, 70%. Only 23% of Republicans plan to get it. The good news for President Biden is that his attempt to take credit for COVID vaccines, which were actually developed under Donald Trump, has apparently succeeded beyond his wildest dreams. And now on to our main story today. Scott Adams, best known as the now canceled creator of the comic strip Dilbert, and also a best-selling author, happens to be a trained hypnotist and an expert in persuasion. Although the Democrats in Congress were lying their heads off during the first day of the impeachment inquiry, and no doubt will continue to do so, he warns that at least some of them were using some very effective persuasion techniques that unfortunately work like a charm on uninformed people. So that's what we're up against. Take AOC, for example.
Persuasion game is super strong. The whole situation around the Bidens is too complicated for 95% of voters. So in that situation, who is the best persuader wins. She, first of all, acts very confident. The confidence itself is part of the persuasion. And I watched her ask witness questions and then act as though the answers to the question proved her point when it didn't even come close. But because the people watching it can't tell the difference, she made it look like they proved her point.
Well, I'll stop him there and show you a good example of what he's talking about. This will be an exercise in stretching your imagination. Try your best to listen to this clip of AOC and hear her from the perspective of someone who doesn't know that she's an ignoramus, and as if you are uninformed about what's going on with the Biden crime family. And by the way, these people do exist, and there are a lot of them.
The impeachment inquiry, any impeachment inquiry, regardless of party, is an extremely serious matter. Professor Gerhardt, in the impeachment inquiry into President Clinton, were there key fact witnesses that were presented during those proceedings?
There were not in the House.
Mm-hmm. In the Senate, were there any?
There were.
There were in the Senate. Now, in the impeachment, in the impeachment investigations with respect to President Trump, were there key material fact witnesses in the House?
Yes, ma'am.
There were. Are there any key material fact witnesses here today?
No, ma'am.
None. And so we are wasting our time.
Now, to anyone who's uninformed and generally values honesty, they're going to assume, because of her confidence, that when she acts confident in her assertions that she actually has made a good point. They're also going to assume this is because most honest people, when they get caught in the middle of a terrible point, well, they're honest enough to admit it, and we tend to assume that others will do the same. Not so, apparently. Scott Adams continues.
You watch her asking questions, the assumption that you have is that those questions ever made sense, or that the answer is in the right context. It was actually just complete blah, blah, blah that her mannerisms sold as proving a point. It was kind of a genius move. It was really good. There was no connection to facts or process. She just got somebody to say yes and no, and then sold it to the public as though she had just won a case. And none of it was even connected, to the question. It was just the most random bunch of bullshit. It was brilliant, really brilliant.
I have to say, this is probably the first time we've ever seen the words genius and brilliant applied to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. But he may have a point. She obviously had the words in front of her at the table while saying this, and she's been coached in the art of selling something that's baloney. But she doesn't even know it's baloney. But yes, what she did will play well with the uninformed or the already brainwashed. To better assess her natural skill at this, it helps to watch those Democrats who are trying the same technique but much less successfully. New York Representative Dan Goldman's attempt to feign righteous indignation while trying to rough up calm and cool legal professor Jonathan Turley landed like an anvil and only succeeded in making him look even more ridiculous than he already did. Surely by now his party has trotted him out enough times to know that he never makes his side look better.
Do you think that the First Amendment protects people from making death threats against federal officials across state lines?
No. If it's a
Does the First Amendment protect someone from yelling fire in a movie theater?
Well, unfortunately, that one is not yes or no, because that's become a mantra for people. It's the Holmes Schenck line. Holmes himself walked back on that.
All right.
Holmes and
we don't need a law class here.
As you can see from just that short clip, it's pretty clear that Representative Goldman is uninterested in actually acquiring answers to his questions, which isn't going to win him any favor from the viewers. So AOC exhibits genius simply because she's better at lying than the others, because she senses or has been advised when she's approaching a line she's better off not crossing. They're all lying. We all better wake up to the tactics, especially when they're being used more skillfully. Another tactic that Scott Adams pointed out was the constant criticism of the hearing over not presenting, quote, fact witnesses. Adams recommended the witnesses, and Republicans respond with this question.
The right question was, does it matter if there are any fact witnesses here today? And then the answer would have been, well, not for the inquiry. For the inquiry, we have documents, and we can show you the documents. So the documents serve as the evidence, and that's why we're here. In another case that had nothing to do with this case and is not a precedent in any way, was there ever a fact witness? Oh, there was. There was. So in the past, there was a fact witness. But let me clarify. There is no fact witness here. None of it matters. It's not relevant to the inquiry. It's just something that sounds good if you didn't know anything about how anything works. But it sounded really good. It was very persuasive.
I think that's solid advice on how Republicans should have responded to this gotcha question. Call the question out for what it is instead of answering it without a challenge. Change the framing. Don't let a partisan bloviator like AOC and the media run over us when we have mounting evidence on our side. Fortunately, we do have someone on our side who knows the Democrats' game, and he can actually beat them at it. On Sunday, Scott Adams pointed out something Donald Trump posted on Truth Social that he thought was really effective. Trump wrote, quote, "Crooked Joe Biden has 3 major problems, and all of them start with the letter I: inflation, immigration, and incompetence." Said Adams, "Oh, that's good. Good stuff, persuasion-wise." Well, it also happens to be true. Well, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, help us get to 1 million subscribers by subscribing to the channel below, leaving a like, and sharing your thoughts in the comments section. We'll have another breakdown video for you tomorrow, and catch the live stream with Mike this Friday, the 6th of October. I'll be covering more of the news of the week, and you can also ask me anything you want. And if you want more of my news analysis and commentary, be sure to sign up for my newsletter at MikeHuckabee.com, delivered to your email inbox twice a day. And here's the really good news. It's totally free. That's going to do it for this edition of The Breakdown. I'm Mike Huckabee.